information at you with that background information today. But I wanted to cover what you actually have to do for the assignment today, which should be fairly easy, especially if you remember some of this stuff from middle school. We're going to be working a couple of genetic problems. And in order to do that, we'll be working with certain genetic traits. Now, genetic traits are any characteristic that has been passed down to you from your parents. So things like your skin color and your hair color and your eye color, whether you've got freckles or not, what shape your thumb is, what the texture of your hair is. Those are all genetic traits. And just like human beings have genetic traits, the peas also have genetic traits. They can be yellow or green. They can have purple flowers or white flowers. They can be tall or short. And all those traits can get passed down through the generation of peas from parent to child, if you want to think of it that way, right? Now, I grew a couple of types of peas over the summer. One was a green type and one was a yellow type. And I knew when I planted those that the green peas were dominant over the yellow peas. So if any of those purebred strains that I planted this summer were to have mated together and I saved the seeds from it to plant next year, there would be no yellow peas next year. And I know that because I know how these genetic problems work. So I know these may seem a little dry and mathematical, but when you realize that once you understand how to do this, you can predict what your kids are going to look like before they're born. That's pretty cool to be able to do. And these genetic problems, if you understand them, will allow you to be able to do that. Now, when we work out these problems, you'll be using what's called a Punnett Square, and that's what you're seeing on the page here. And I'm going to walk you through what goes in all these things, and then we'll work a simple problem together. Up top on the left-hand side here, you'll see a box that says trait, and that's asking you what trait we're working with in this problem. And we're going to be working, in this case, just to keep it simple, with the green and yellow pod colors in peas. Over here, you've got a key, and that key is going to tell you which one's dominant and which one's recessive, and it's going to represent each one with a little letter. It's either going to be a capital letter if it's dominant, or a recessive letter, a lowercase letter if it's recessive. And the reason we use letters there is because we're talking about things that are invisible. They're down inside the cell. They're little segments of DNA that you cannot see. And so we represent those things with little letters in these problems. Over here to the left, you'll see a space for mom and dad, and that is where the versions of that color that they have are going to be written out. So you'll know what dad was and you'll know what mom was. And then you'll see that dad and mom are going to contribute sperm if it's dad, or eggs if it's mom, to the baby. And there's 2 spaces down here for mom's eggs, and there's 2 spaces up here for dad's sperm. And inside of those, there's going to be one version of that color passed along. Because if you remember, when mom and dad make sperm and egg cells, they only have half the information that the mom and dad had in them. Because when you add that back together, you're going to get what's in the purple boxes here, and that's going to be the children. I mean, if you want to think of it that way, we're talking about peas, but the babies, right? The baby peas, the new pea plants that were made by those 2 parent plants. And those 4 boxes are possible children that those 2 plants have made. So that's what you're looking at on this chart, and we're going to be filling one in. I'll work one with you here so you'll see how it's done and know how to do the ones that you're working on today. Now, you'll notice when I go to this next one, there's a lot of question marks here, and that's only there because that's where you're going to fill things in on the Punnett Square. So I'm going to come in, and we're going to fill this one in as we go. The trait, we're going to say pea pod color, right? Now, this may or may not be what you're working with in your assignment, but that's what we're working with here in this example problem, pea pod color. And there were 2 versions of that. So I'm going to click over here. And then this box, the dominant form, I told you was green, and we're going to represent it with a capital G. Dominant genes get capital letters. And the only reason I'm using G is because green starts with a G. I just picked that, right? So we're going to put green there in that box. Big G equals green. Now, somebody will have to tell you, and I mean, unless you wanted to go like plant the plants and wait a year. Somebody will have to tell you in all these problems which one is dominant over the other one. And they know that because they've done the cross out in the real world, and they've seen that the green color beats out or covers up the yellow color when you crossbreed those things. So that's how I know that. I've never done it before myself. So we got big G equals green. That's the dominant version. And then we're going to put little g equals yellow. So now we've got our key up top. P color is the trait we're working with. Big G is going to represent that dominant green color, and little g is going to represent the recessive yellow color that gets colored up if the green one's there. Now, for mom and dad here, one of the first things that Mendel did was he took a purebred yellow, and let's make dad the yellow pea plant here. Now notice that I'm putting two little g's in there. Each parent is going to have two copies, two versions of each trait. You inherited one from your mom and one from your dad, and then you'll pass only one of those on to your kid because your husband or wife will donate the other one, right? So dad, we're going to make him little g, he will be a yellow pea plant. And then mom here, we're going to represent with a big G. I'm going to make her the dominant one here because I don't want you to start thinking that dominant is somehow connected with being a mom or a dad. It isn't. It's completely disconnected. It doesn't have anything to do with being male or female. So she is the dominant green pea, and he is the recessive yellow pea. Now, when they make their sperm and eggs, when dad makes his sperm here, in each sperm that he makes, he's only going to contribute one of the two letters that he has. And since the only thing he's got is a little g, that's what he has to give these to sperm, a little g, because that's the only thing he could have put in those sperm. He did not have a big G to put in one. Mom is going to do the same thing, but she only has big G's to contribute to her eggs, and she is going to put one of those in each of her egg cells. Now, you know from the reproduction unit that egg plus sperm makes baby. So what we're doing here, and this is what he kind of skipped over in the video, that's why I wanted to make this for you. What you're doing here is you're taking the version of the color trait that came from the egg and the version of the color trait that came from the sperm, and you're bringing them into the box here to make the baby. This egg and this sperm will end up in this box to make a baby that looks like that. You got a big G from mom, got a little g from dad, and it'll be a big G, little g, baby pea plant. Now, this box will get this G and that G. They will come into this box and they will end up like that. Okay. This baby here will get this G from that egg and this G from that sperm. And they will end up being that. Are you seeing a pattern here? This one's like really obvious what it's going to turn out as, right? Because the kids can only get one type from each parent. Some of the other ones that you'll work will be much more varied in what kind of kids they make. So now the problem is worked. Now there's more to it than this, but this is all I want you to concentrate on today is just working out the problems like this and then answering a couple of questions. So we've mated a yellow dad with a green mom, and we have made 4 babies here. All of the babies turned out inheriting one dominant big G and one recessive little g. So they would be big G, little g's. And can you guess what color they would look like? They're going to be green. Now, I know they've inherited a green version and a yellow version in the letters. But since, like we said to begin with, that green color is dominant over yellow, that green will cover up the yellow in the kids, and all those babies will turn out looking green just like their mother did. But they won't be genetically just like their mother. Down inside their DNA, they also have that recessive yellow color that they could carry to the next generation and pass on to their children who could turn out yellow. So that's how these problems work. if you have any more trouble with it, there's another really good video that I've attached from the Amoeba Sisters showing you how to work the Punnett squares and what all the words mean. So you can fall back on that one too if you don't understand exactly how to do it. And shoot me an email if you have any questions. I hope that explains everything. Good luck. Talk to you later.